It's talking about my generation. My generation.
Well, happy Friday to you. I am Jen Yates. You're locked on to Jyneration Nation, LRS102.com, the Walrus broadcasting from the Launch Louisville Studios down on East Broadway in Louisville, Kentucky. And I'm so excited, especially on a Friday. I have Kim Sorise up in the studios. How are you doing, Kim?
I'm doing great. How are you doing?
Fantastic. Thank you for coming into the show.
Oh, man, thanks for having me.
Yeah, I've been a fan for a hot second. You know what I'm saying? I've seen you DJ around town. You're always everywhere, it seems like. Literally everywhere.
I try.
Yeah. Well, you do
I have clones.
Yeah, well, you do well. So you're a DJ, but you also have a big background in music, which I love, of course, and you're a transplant here like me.
I am.
Yeah, so let's start out by telling people a little bit about yourself.
Sure.
Where did you come from, and how did you end up in Louisville?
I was born in Detroit, Michigan, born and raised. I moved from Detroit to Louisville December the 18th of 2000.
Yeah.
And I remember specifically, thank you, because in Detroit we had a massive snowstorm and 10 inches were dumped. It took me 5.5 hours to dig out a space big enough for my moving van and carrying all those records down the stairs.
Serious?
And then we had an ice storm on the way down.
Oh, wow.
So it was, you don't forget
In 2000, that'd have been right. I moved here right before you in November of 1999.
Yeah.
So, yeah. And where did you come to? I mean, why did you come here? Did you already have people here, or why did you just go, I'm going to Louisville?
I knew no one. I came down here for a job. I was working at a radio station in Detroit, WDET, which was, our public radio station in the city. And I was doing news there and production and engineering. And then I was also a substitute music host.
Okay.
And then I wanted to go full-time news. And so I got a news producer position at WFPL.
Right.
So,
Awesome.
yeah.
We love FPL here.
Yeah.
I'm a big FPK and FPL.
Yeah. So I came down. It was still the Public Radio Partnership. They had just opened up that new space on 4th Street. Mm-hmm. It was tremendously impressive. Nobody else in the country had like 3 public radio stations with 3 completely different formats. That was totally groundbreaking. So I said, let's give this shit a shot.
Right.
Absolutely.
Yay, we start Friday out by cussing. Fuck yeah. I'll give more money. So every time we cuss, just so our listeners know, we donate money to fighting homelessness here in the city of Louisville.
I'm glad I brought some money with me.
Yeah, good. Yeah, because we're going to cuss a lot. I have a filthy mouth, and I love it.
I do too. I do too.
Yes.
And I'm not in a classroom today.
Exactly.
So
you're
we're
welcome.
good.
Hey, I always say LRS's format is you can do whatever the hell you please. Yay.
Perfect.
We like it that way.
So I came down and I was a news producer. Did a lot of stuff for them, did documentary style news. I also worked for the National Public Radio Network regionally, was feeding stories nationally to them. And then I walked into FPK and I said, you need me somewhere.
I love that.
Somewhere. I was cocky.
Yeah. Hey, well, cocky works. We're going to spin some, this is a record called Drum Sex, and it's all about the drums.
Nice.
Yeah, underneath this. So we're going to, rock that out. So if you hear some cool drumming underneath, you know why.
Yes.
Well, that is super
I would
cool.
expect no less.
Yeah, right?
Great drumming,
I know,
for certain.
Yeah. Exactly. I'm all about the drums, man.
Yeah.
And, drums are what makes us dance. The rhythm incites movement of the body, or it should if you're doing it right.
Yes.
So I always say as a drummer, if I'm not looking out and seeing people moving their body and dancing, then I am not doing my job.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
as a
my
DJ,
job.
It's the same thing.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, we have a lot in common,
We do.
actually. Yeah. Obviously, I moved here working in television as an on-air director and producer. And then eventually I had worked in radio before that, prior to that. So obviously when I got here, I ended up going back into news. I went back to radio at Radio 1 and then took this news bureau chief role, basically. And, that wasn't a fun time. We were talking about 9/11. I was working in television when that happened. I actually was on a plane when 9/11 went down. And then I was trying to get back to Louisville to work. I was visiting a girl out in Oklahoma that I'd met on the internet. Which, sorry, Mom, if you're listening.
Yeah.
That's what we did back in the day.
That's what we did.
I know. I was only like 22 or, 23, somewhere around in there. And I up on a plane and went out and got a dog. I got a dog out in Oklahoma and flew it back here. You know what I mean?
You left the girl who brought home the dog.
I did. I left the girl and brought the dog back. His name is Oz, and he looked like Toto from Wizard of Oz. He was a little Yorkie. He was so cute. I have since lost him, but I think about him every day. But anyway, so we both worked news.
Yeah. They don't let
obviously.
women like us with voices
Yes.
to not escape radio.
Exactly.
Right? And TV.
Right. True. Yeah.
For certain.
Yeah. In fact, how did you get your start in radio? I'm curious.
I got my start in radio because I was a journalism major at Wayne State University, and our Detroit newspapers went on strike.
Oh, okay.
So,
Interesting.
my dad's side of the family is multi-generational Ford employees.
Okay.
And they were union members and union stewards, and you don't cross a picket line.
Yeah.
So I was not going to do that. And so I could not get an internship at the Detroit News or the Free Press, so I walked into the public radio station,
Wow.
and that was it.
I love that. Do you want to hear how I got my start?
Yes.
Just because we've got
Yes.
2 hours, we can talk about anything. When I was a kid, we had one little station in my hometown. My hometown is 2,800 people, so it's teeny. It's like a little stop sign on a road map kind of thing. And they were classic old country, and I was obsessed with Dolly Parton from the moment I came out of the womb. I loved her. I still do to this day. I was jamming to her on the way here.
Sure.
Yeah. And I used to call the radio station. I thought it was the coolest thing. Me and my sister would call and be like, we're going to request Dolly like every day, multiple times, right?
Of course.
I'm sure they got sick of us, but they're like, oh, those kids are calling again when Dolly Parton, 9 to 5.
Did they put
or
you
whatever.
on the air?
Yeah, they would put me on the air and all this stuff. So skip until I'm 16. I'm walking through my high school, and there's this elderly lady there, and I was always a chatty Cathy. I love to talk to everybody. So I went over and started talking to her, and I didn't know who she was. And she said, do you have a job yet? Are you old enough to have a job? And I said, no, but, when I turn 16, I can. And she said, well, here's my card. She goes, I love your voice. And she says, I'm going to hire you. I'm going to give you your own radio show. All you got to do is come see me. And so I went to see her. I did not fill out an application. She gave me my show on the spot, 7 to midnight. My parents let me work it. And boom, I had a radio show, 7 to midnight. It was
That's badass.
Yeah, it was
That's
a call
awesome.
in too. And I'm talking about Redneckville. So, we'd get phone calls. And sometimes back in those days, it was pre-automation.
Mm-hmm.
So this was back when you had to literally walk outside and turn the transmitter on to actually transmit your signal.
Mm-hmm.
And our transmitter was a satellite in the middle of a cow pasture. You know what I mean? It was kind of creepy walking out there at like 4 in the morning and stuff like that. So I'd go out there, hit the button, broadcast live. And then there would be like rednecks calling in to request songs, and I wouldn't screen them. That's the great thing of live radio.
Of course.
It's just anything could go wrong at any minute. Same with television.
It certainly can.
Yes, and we'll talk a little bit about that because I'm sure you've got some great stories on that. But they would call in and be like, I want to dedicate Loretta Lynn's Fifth City going out to Billy Joe from Bobby Sue because, this one stole my man and she's trash and blah, blah, blah. And I'd just be like, just letting them roll.
Telling
what I
everybody's
mean?
business.
Yeah.
Oh, the joy of a small town.
Yeah, it's the joy of a small town. Yeah, that's why I left the joy of a small town. When we skipped school, I had to skip school. We would go to caves because it's the only place nobody would find you. You know what I mean? You're in the country. Now, you can go to some country farmlands, but... people would still find you. It's one of those towns where if I skipped school 2 minutes later, my mom already knew because everybody in town was like, I saw your kids rolling across,
Right.
Yeah, so that's why I left. One of the many reasons I left, but I was already out at 17, and they did not like that at all. I was
Sure.
the very odd creative kid that I was popular, not super popular, but I was the weird kid.
They already pigeonholed you as something out of the box anyway.
And Little Kim had just dropped her big first record, and Melissa Etheridge's Yes I Am was just out. So, I would crank up. I had a big old sound system in my car, and I'd take my bra off and put it on my antenna and be like, fuck y'all, you know what I mean? And I'd be blasting Lil' Kim's I Don't Want Dick Tonight, just they didn't know how to handle me. So they were excited when I left that town.
Mm-hmm.
And then I came to Louisville, and I was like, wait, there are gay bars here? I was so excited. So the first night I was here, I went downtown. The Connection was still around. The Dock. You had Score on the corner. You had Tinks there as well. It was this big, Sparks was there.
Mm-hmm.
So I would go down there and be like, wow, this is the coolest place ever, And then that just started it all.
Yeah.
I didn't even know that there were private schools until I got to Louisville.
Yeah.
I didn't understand that. Where I'm from, I'm like, there's one school. You didn't get a choice,
Yeah, I didn't have that option.
Yeah.
You know,
so
it
how was
like-
Detroit growing up?
Detroit was, it was a tough city. to grow up in. It is still absolutely my favorite place. But it was not an easy spot to grow up in the 70s and 80s. You know, it was on a city that was on a consistent decline as I was growing up. So, you know, there was tremendous racial strife and economic strife. It's a one-trick pony of a manufacturing town. That, you know, struggled to keep its lights on and to get garbage picked up. And, you know, we had some riots in 1967, July the 23rd, which was a pretty pinnacle time for the city. And then we elected a mayor, Coleman Young, who was a socialist, and he was pro-black. And he said, if you don't like it, get the hell out. And people did. You know, all the white folks left, and it created major destruction in terms of the economic stability of the city, which was already going down. But it was important for the empowerment of Black people to have somebody finally come in and say, you know, this is a Black city, and we are going to integrate the police force, and we're going to integrate business, and you can't do this to us. And people need to be paid the same, and there needs to be, you know, equity across the board. And I think, you know, he did it with the greatest intentions in the beginning, but then after 25 years in office, shit starts to change and people become greedy.
Absolutely.
So, and it's gone through, you know, some ups and downs, and right now Detroit is, you know, on a massive upswing and has been. Thankfully so, but it's not the city I grew up in.
Understood.
Well, you know, it's real
cool,
fucking shiny now.
So. Right. I was going to say, y'all have got that real cool, like, walk through the laser light kind of airport thing going on. That's crazy.
It is. It's like techno show for sure. It's not, you know, I love going home. I love seeing all of the change, but they've made a space in the downtown for suburbanites to come in and feel comfortable because they never did before. And so they come in and they can spend money. And now people are moving downtown and it's great, but I couldn't afford to go back there and live. I couldn't at all. You know, it's now out of my price range. And when I moved here, I mean, shit, I was paying $310 a month for a 3-bedroom apartment on my own. When I moved, when I left Detroit and then, you know, down here, I paid double that and was like, oh my God, how am I going to do this? You know, and I know now that they're two very, very affordable cities, but it's not as affordable as it once was. But it deserves all of its accolades and all of its stars. I mean, it has struggled for a very long time. You know, I mean, at least my entire life. And then some.
Well, we love Louisville. I've always said it was pretty affordable. I mean, if I can make it as a musician and a drum instructor, you know, it's pretty affordable. But the Highlands, even since the realtor, like the boom happened and everything went under. I shouldn't say boom, whatever you call that. The reception or whatever.
Recession.
Thank you. My brain's not working today yet.
Okay.
I know, I got to get more coffee in it. But anyway, ever since the recession, I mean, the Highlands wasn't touched. Crescent Hill wasn't touched. Even Germantown wasn't touched. Their prices skyrocketed.
No, we've gone the opposite.
We've gone the opposite. Exactly. And I've been in the Highlands on and off for 21 years, minus a stint, a year here with some girl and then a year here with some girl. So I always would come back to the Highlands, but I mean, the prices are so. When I first moved here, let's see, in 2002, I got my first house in the Highlands, but it was in that bougie area of the Highlands down near Assumption and Atherton High School, kind of that area of it. And I rented a 3-story house with a full basement for $1,000, and I had a hot tub in the backyard and off-street parking. I mean, it was a gorgeous, gorgeous place. That was super cheap. Now that same house is going for over $2,000. At least. So it was the band house, though. I just
of course.
would always find bandmates to
No, I
rent
think
stuff.
the first place I rented was about $650, and I had a wacky landlord, so I stayed there for 6 months, and I bought a house. And I bought a house on Mary, and I paid like $59,000 for it.
Wow, that's crazy. What's it worth now, you think?
I sold it 5 years later for $95,000, and then moved into the Schnitzelberg neighborhood. And I've been there for 16 years, just about. So 15, 16 years. And that house has doubled.
Yeah, I guarantee
And then
that whole
some.
area has doubled. I used to live on Schiller for 8 years, and that house had doubled. And my friends flip. I mean, they will buy houses for like $50,000, put another $50,000 into them, and then sell them for like $250.
Right.
You know.
You can't get those $50,000 houses in Schnitzelburg anymore.
Yeah, I know. It's
know.
crazy, isn't it?
Yeah.
They've helped renovate most all of the Shelby Park area, and that whole strip coming from where Lisa's Oak Street Lounge at Kaiju is now, that whole strip over the railroad tracks, you can thank my friends for renovating most all of those houses. That used to be a very seedy area.
That's where my house was, right around
Yeah.
the corner there. No, Mary was no joke.
Mary's no joke. I mean, there's a lot of heroin addicts
Yeah.
going on there. You've got a lot of homeless living around that area, and now I don't see as many now as I used to. That whole area has kind of revitalized itself.
Yeah, I think that's beneficial. It
Yes,
needed it.
it
You know,
did need
it was struggling when I moved there, and it taught me a lot. Though you don't buy the nicest house on the street.
Yeah,
you know,
for sure.
you really don't.
Yeah.
And so then I bought the middle of the road house on the street that was also up and coming. So,
Yeah, well, we
it
love
was
Louisville,
good.
though. And
No, I do. It's
I-
great. It's a great place. I've always said that it's a really comfortable, easy city to live in, and it's a good home base, right? Because
Same.
it's 5 hours from everything.
It literally is.
You know, it's
Yes.
5 hours to Detroit, 5 to Chicago, 5 to St. Louis, 2.5 to Nashville because of traffic.
5 to Atlanta, really. yeah.
5 to Atlanta. So it's a really great home base.
I agree. Yeah, I've always had my base here, and then gotten outside to do everything else I needed to do. And it's got a great music scene too. We have some amazing musicians in this town.
Yeah, I was fully aware of what was going on here in Louisville when I was in Detroit. When I was going to college, I also worked at, I had 2 jobs. I worked at the Detroit Public Library in their Detroit Historical collection. So I read nonstop about the city and its development and its growth and its challenges. But then I also worked at this coffee house / venue called Zoots.
Yeah.
And we had like 1,000 bands in 5 years, sort of thing. We were open at 5 in the morning or 8 in the morning till 4 in the morning.
Wow.
And we were in the middle of a really rough neighborhood at the time, which is now shiny and gentrified. But it was the Cass Corridor then. And I saw so many bands, and we were super into Gaster del Sol and David Grubbs and Squirrel Bait, and of course the Rachels and Slint and all of that sort of stuff was fully. We knew all of it, and paid a lot of attention, in the 90s, Rodan and Cerebellum and, all of that kind of crew. So it was pretty funny to me when I first moved here. I knew no one at all.
Same.
But, I ended up at a New Year's Eve show at the Rudyard Kipling.
Oh, yeah, I used to play there all
And
the
it was
time.
like Speed to Rome and King Kong and, The Ingredient. And I was like, shit, that's David Pajo. And shit, that's David
Yeah.
Grubbs.
Oh,
I was
wait,
like,
do I-
this is
shit,
the weirdest
shit,
thing,
shit, Yeah.
I was like, this is very strange. So,
Yeah.
But I enjoyed it. It was fun.
Yeah, man, those old Rudyard Kipling days are just so. I had so many great moments there.
Yeah, they were
and
very
we've
cool.
had people from Squirrel Bait in. I also had Todd Hildreth from King Kong, Ray Rizzo. Obviously, I met him playing the Rudyard Kipling years ago, and we talked about Selena. She used to run, I think, the sound at Rudyard Kipling for a long time, and I just got to play with her for the first time this year. believe it or
that's
not.
awesome.
Well, I technically played with her a show at Headliners called The Queens of Drag, where Jay Jolie was up front singing, lip syncing, and Kimmett Cantwell was in the back actually singing while Jade, and then I was the drummer behind them, and then Selena was on bass, and what a great bass player she is. I love that chick. She's awesome. Yeah, I wish I'd have played with her a long time before.
Yeah.
Yeah, we just never crossed paths until recently. But I hired her to do the She Castle event for us, trying to raise some money for my Beverly McClellan, and we were donating it off to charity, Girls Rock Louisville and Successful Living, which helps women transition. It's a sober home for women and children if they're homeless. All great organizations.
Wonderful.
So, shout out to Selena. We love you.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and Allison Cross. So we have a lot of mutual friends. So I want you to tell me a little bit about how did you get into vinyl stuff and DJing?
I think, my dad my parents were both tremendous music fans. My dad played saxophone. He was really into jazz and into, like big 70s bands like Tower of Power and, shit like
Dave
that.
Garibaldi,
And my mom was into pretty heavy stuff, more like Sabbath.
Cool. Hey, I'm wearing a Black Sabbath t-shirt.
You are,
Did you
yes.
see it?
Yes, I did. She was super into Sabbath, and then she also liked folk. She really liked Joni Mitchell and all that.
God,
they both
who
graduated in 1967 in Detroit, which of course was pinnacle. They were friends with all kinds of musicians, and my aunt was as well. And so there was always music in the house, and then when they split up, when they were, 24 years old or something like that, the only argument I ever remember my parents having pre-divorce was about who brought which record into the household. I was going
to say who's taking home the vinyl.
Yeah. And this, they're still good friends, but this argument still happens 47 years later because I'll pull something out and one of them will be down here to visit and my dad will be like, wait, where the hell did you get that record? And I'm like, Mom, no, that was mine. And my mom does the same shit. So my dad gave me records when I was 11.
Yeah.
And he gifted me with Zappa's We're Only In It For The Money, the first King Crimson record.
Hell yeah.
Pharoah Saunders and John Coltrane live in Seattle.
Yeah.
And the Montreux record with Hendrix on one side and Otis Redding on the other. And I'm 11 years old.
Yeah.
And I'm listening, to Coltrane and Pharoah Saunders, and then also Dr. John's Babylon.
Oh, yeah.
So, yeah, it's kind of always been there. There was always music. We had hundreds and hundreds of LPs in the house and 8 tracks and cassettes. And I, had probably by 14 years old, I would spend my allowance every week. I'd walk to the Harmony House record store and buy a cassette.
Yeah.
And, when I was 16, I had been playing trumpet for quite a few years at that point. I went into the record store with my big box of cassettes of all new wave, and I sold them, every single one of them, and I started buying jazz records.
Wow.
And my friends thought I was crazy.
Yeah.
And
why did you do that?
Because I've always been I've been a tremendous jazz fan my whole life.
Yeah, same.
But to me, it just felt like that was the proper format, to listen to Coltrane and Miles
the true
Davis
American
and
art form.
and
jazz.
put it on LP, and so that was kind of when my collecting started. But I always had them.
Yeah. How many records do you approximate that you have now?
I think like 8,000, something like that. I don't know. It's a room.
Yeah, it's a room.
It has
that.
a room.
I want a record vinyl room.
Yeah,
That'd be
it's a
awesome. I love that.
That's why I moved out of the Mary house.
Yeah.
Because I needed a space.
You needed another room for all your vinyl records. You're like me with drum sets.
Yeah.
I'm like, I had 12 drum sets at one point, and my house had 6 rooms in it. So I was like, what am I going to do? I had a garage, thank goodness, but I was like, what am I going to do with this? So what I did was when I downsized, I donated a lot of those off. I donated it to like West End theater groups that needed a drum set, and their kids were so excited when I took it down there. There's like 30 kids who now get to play drums.
That's
you know
fantastic.
what I mean? Yeah, most of my vintage ones I kept, but I donated most everything I have off. Yeah, I mean, I think every kid should have a drum set. That's just my theory.
Yeah.
Same with vinyl. They should know, vinyl and music. And music is I feel like it's a right. You know what I mean? It's a basic human right.
It is, and it's a universal healer for sure.
Yes,
so,
I say that
and
often.
the DJing came out just because my mom said, you have a problem. Mm-hmm. Figure out a way to justify your addiction. And I said, people will pay me to play records. Yeah. So that's why I started DJing.
I love that. That is so cool. So when you started DJing, how old you think?
Like 20.
Okay.
Really? You know? Yeah, like 20,
and then you
21.
immediately started with, you wanted to spin vinyl, and did you study anybody who had spun vinyl or anything like that?
I was radio trained.
Yeah.
So, which is different than being, club trained.
Right, absolutely.
So, and I still work like a radio DJ in a club setting.
Yeah.
I am not a cut and scratch DJ. Mm-hmm. That is not my forte.
Right.
I love it, and it is a technique that I think is tremendous. It's just not one that I do very well.
Right, I hear you.
Not one that I'm comfortable enough to do in public. Let me say that.
I've been practicing. There's a lot of like techniques. For
there's
the
a
scratch and
tremendous
stuff.
amount. Yeah, absolutely. So, and I play records, I think, as an appreciator and a fan, not in an effort to take and make something else.
Yeah.
And a lot of the DJs in Detroit at the time, we're talking like early Detroit techno and electro DJs like Jeff Mills and Kevin Saunderson and like that Belmont 3, the original like Cybertron and all that sort of stuff. They were making something totally different. And I had when I was a kid, I would record the radio.
Yeah.
And I would record sets on the radio and I would talk over it.
Yeah.
And I grew up idolizing DJs. Yeah. Radio DJs.
Me too. We are so similar, I swear. My sister and I, we had the dual like cassette tape thing, and we would make our own radio shows and record it on cassette tape. And then we would tell jokes, and then we would overdub ourselves like laughing 100 times over top to make it sound like a crowd of people laughing. And then we would sell those tapes to our aunts and uncles who had boats. Because I was Lake Cumberland based, so I had a boat before I owned a car.
Right.
So my aunt and uncle had several,
and they'd play your
boats.
mix.
Yeah, they'd put the cassette and I wish I still had those tapes to this day. They said that they wore them out so much that they broke. Over the years.
I would do that. I would record off the radio. I would record off my records and I wanted to be. My idol was Electrifying Mojo, who did radio for a very long time in Detroit in the 70s. He broke Prince.
Awesome.
I grew up listening to Detroit radio, black-owned Detroit radio. That was like you would hear Prince, then you would hear Funkadelic, then you would hear Led Zeppelin, then you would hear Tina Turner, then you would hear Cybertron.
Yeah.
It was insane, and this was nighttime radio.
Yeah.
And then, there were other DJs in town that I paid a lot of attention to, but he was absolutely my favorite.
That's so cool. Yeah, that's back when radio, the DJs really broke the artist because we've kind of lost that over the years.
100%.
Yeah. And it's kind of sad because I used to love to give my record or whatever I was working on to a DJ and them spin it. It was awesome to get to hear you. I remember exactly where I was the first time I heard myself on the radio playing drums on a track, and it was super cool.
Yeah, it is really
like,
cool.
Wow, that's crazy. But nowadays the DJs, it's like the FCC tells you everything that you have to spin. You have to spin Taylor Swift 14 times a day.
Not happening.
And no wonder, right?
No offense, girl, but not happening.
I hear you. I mean, that's why we get sick of stuff, though. You know what I mean? And that's why we get so worn out on songs. I mean, do you remember when You Can't Touch This came out?
Sure.
Oh my gosh, do you remember how many times they spin that?
Sure.
I mean, it was just over and over, and like I felt like for a whole 20 years after that, nobody wanted to hear that track. It's just now that they will.
Right, and now it's some element of nostalgia.
It is.
However, it was, anger-inducing.
Yes, and, the same, because right around that same time was when Achy Breaky Heart come out, and then we also had, what was the Ice Ice Baby? It was just like over and over and over again. You couldn't go anywhere. You couldn't even go to a local county fair without hearing it or seeing T-shirts being sold that were printed, the lyrics or something,
I think the benefit of growing up in a city like Detroit that has so much music history on so many different genres, though, is that I was very fortunate to skip a lot of top 40.
Yeah, that's good.
Even though I was listening to radio consistently and pretty much constantly, and I'm still very much a radio listener. I don't listen to anything else in the car but the radio. I listen to records at home.
Yeah.
I don't have Spotify. I don't have iTunes.
I cannot figure Spotify out. It's so confusing to me.
I don't have any of that.
Right.
My partner has Tidal, and I listen to his account because, there's some good stuff on there, but other than that, I don't.
Well, as someone who puts out their own records and stuff like that, it's really hard to kind of keep up with it all because to find a distribution label that can go to everything, which I finally think I found one, but, it's like you put your music on iTunes and then iTunes goes under. And then it's like, okay, shit, now I've got to have it on Spotify or whatever title, whatever's the new thing, and then to get it on the Alexa and to get it on the Google Play and, all the things that we listen to music. It's so odd to me. And the first thing I say to a kid when I go in to start teaching teaching them is, okay, what kind of music do you listen to and how do you listen to your music?
Yep.
Because it's so interesting to me how kids get music today. And most of it is from a Spotify or
YouTube.
something like that. YouTube, yes. In fact, I will credit YouTube because nowadays I have noticed that, everybody's always worried about what kids listen to and they're, I'm so scared about the future of music. Well, I'm not scared about it because I teach these kids on a daily basis. I have about 30 a week. And when I teach them, I'm always like, they blow me away with their knowledge of music. And it's because of YouTube. They know who a Buddy Rich is. And I'm like, how do you know who Buddy Rich is? And I saw him on YouTube. And a kid, what's your favorite band? Hall & Oates or Zeppelin? And I'm like, wow, how do you know that? From your parents? YouTube. It's always YouTube.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then it's
I appreciate that it has kind of picked up where MTV left off and lost because
absolutely.
I guess they don't play videos on MTV anymore.
No,
I don't know.
They don't. I don't think they did. I haven't watched it since like 1986. No. Yeah, so I don't know.
No, but I guess they don't play videos, and that was also that was a big thing. We both grew up around the same time, and I remember sitting at my Nana's house, my Nana and Granddad's out in Utica, which was 15 minutes outside the city. They had cable. We didn't have cable in our neighborhood, and sitting there watching it, I guess it was in June, right?
Yeah.
1981. Sitting on the carpet, and I watched like the shit happen, the man in the space suit and the blinking flag
and the bugles or bugles or whatever.
The buggles.
Yeah.
Video killed the radio star. There you
go. It sure did there for a hot minute. Yeah. And nowadays it's like if you're putting out a song, you really want to put out a video. I've been working on a video for a long time. I've got a new single coming out called Jesus Freak 502.
Awesome.
Yeah, which is going to question a lot of things.
Sure.
I'll tell you about it off air because I don't like to spoil it just
Good.
yet. But I feel like you have to constantly keep upping your video stuff because these people, these major artists like a Beyonce, they're spending millions of dollars on making one video. You know what I mean? So I'm like, okay, how can I do it like $500?
Right.
And that's still a lot of money for a video. Yeah. The last one I did though, I put on a wedding dress. And my stylist put me in a black sequence dress, mini skirt with red velvet thigh-high boots because I was like, I'm never femme. And I was like, what can I do to like blow minds? I'm going to get in a wedding dress and crawl around in this crazy outfit and play my own bougie female.
Yeah.
And that's what I did. So I feel like I have to constantly keep upping myself past that. Which is funny because people still to this day do not believe that I'm the girl in my own video.
Yeah.
And it's just me femmed up.
Throwback to Madonna.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Everybody
also
always...
from Rochester, Michigan.
Hell yeah. Dude, I'm the biggest Madonna fan ever. I mean, because...
I avoided that, though, like the plague, honestly, being,
sure.
a 12-year-old girl.
Yeah.
In Detroit, and I was like, no, I can't do that. It just wasn't my thing.
Yeah.
I was at that point in time. I was, deeply rooted in classic rock and Iron Maiden.
Yeah, no kidding. Right on. Well, I love that. I remember one of my first cassette tapes being not only the purple Pat Benatar, but it was Like a Virgin. And I remember the reason I loved Madonna so much is the household that I came from. We didn't speak of anything. We didn't talk about sex. We didn't talk about tampons. We didn't talk about nothing. Like it was all hush, hush, hush. So I'm discovering my sexuality. And obviously, I was chasing girls at age 4 under the pool table to try to kiss them. So, I was obviously gay at a very young age before I even knew what gay was. And Madonna was coming out. A lot of people remember where they were when JFK was shot or where the Challenger blew up. I remember exactly where I was when she crawled across the stage in the wedding dress.
Right.
And I was just like drooling as a kid, being like, who is this chick, And I was discovering my sexuality while she was pushing sexual barriers, and I would sneak and like buy the sex book and buy I don't even know how I did that, but I ended up with the sex book and it had the erotica single in the middle of it. And I don't know, I liked her because she was so different. She was wearing the men's suits and the cone bras and you know what I mean? And I was just like, who is this? This is yummy. I love this chick,
I've always
it wasn't even about her music. It was more about the persona.
Right. I was never much a fan of her music. And there are things about it, I guess, that I kind of like now, in a way. I've never owned a Madonna record.
I love that.
But awesome. I've always appreciated the fact that she no holds barred, is comfortable in her own skin and will continue to push boundaries. And I think that that's tremendously important. And it gave, that idea of a sense of femininity and strength to young girls.
Like me.
I think this is also what we're seeing right now with Lizzo, which I think, she's badass too. And that essence that she's pop music, but she's giving, these young women and teenage girls a sense, and and boys too, and femmes, and queer kids, and giving them a sense of this is who you are. It's okay to be who you are, and put that message out there.
Yeah,
I think that's a really beautiful thing.
Yeah, it's like the music hits, but their attitude is more punk rock. You know what I mean? Because they're like, screw you and your body image, whatever.
Yeah.
I'm going to be fat and beautiful, you know, and you're going to love me because I'm fat and beautiful. Yeah, there's something about a powerful female that we're just like, wow. You know, most of us are attracted to.
Yeah.
I think most men are terrified of powerful women, but they know that we're more powerful. I've always said the female is the dominating, we're the dominating species because
we kind of rule the roost.
We kind of do. And it's finally about time for us to take that role and be like, dude, we rock it. You know what I'm saying? You better bow down. Now, I love a dude, but I'm like, I've always loved women, and I love powerful, strong women.
I do too.
Yeah. And there's something just that, and you're right, we do need like a Lizzo for that reason.
Sure.
And also when we were growing up, it was more about Joan Jett to me. I loved her punk rock attitude, and she didn't give a shit about what the record label said about her. Ani DeFranco the same way. Both of them were like, they did not really hit it off with record labels right away.
No.
They were like, well, we're just going to start our own.
Yeah. For me, like influences, of course, were, Aretha Franklin.
She's Detroit, isn't she?
Sure, certainly. But her recordings for Atlantic and Columbia, and, kind of saying, no, I'm not, going to be part of this. I'm going to do what I want to do. I'm going to sing soul. I'm going to sing, secular music, but I'm also going to go do a gospel record. She is and was a force. I was thankful to spend a little bit of time with her a few times over the years.
Wow, that's awesome.
But,
tell us about that.
I met Miss Franklin when I was working at WDET because I helped engineer some of her interviews. But the first time I met her was in an elevator.
Awesome.
When I worked at Ticketmaster when I was 19, and I had been taking a break in the parking lot.
A break
in the parking. Yes, in the parking lot, and was running back in and saw a limo out front. Because it was, the Ticketmaster office was on one of the floors, and there were several other businesses in that space on Telegraph Road. And I ran in and I said, hey, can you grab the elevator? And I saw a big hand, a man's hand, come out and hold it. And then I walked in the front and I looked straight and I was like, holy shit, you're Aretha Franklin.
I would have done the same.
And it was Ms. Franklin with her, with her entourage and bodyguards, and her attorney apparently was in that building. And she looked at me, she's like, come on, baby, you know who I am. Step on in. And I was like, oh, thank you. So I rode the elevator with Aretha Franklin up a few floors, and again, I had a break in the parking lot, so I was a little nervous. I'm sure that they could smell my. I'm sure they could smell my nervousness.
They probably wanted to. I'm sure they wanted to join you.
And it was pretty funny. And then I ran into her again, engineering an interview for her that she did with Terry Gross for Fresh Air. And then I saw her again when I covered Coleman Young's funeral, the mayor of the city of Detroit, who'd been there for 25 years. That was one of the first big stories I did, is I covered his funeral, and she sang at his funeral.
Wow.
And I was trying to fight my way through, with the microphone, and I'm 5 foot tall, and, I'm like 23 years old, and she saw like this little hand, and I don't know, she cleared the Red Sea of media and just said, get out of her way. She's like, I know you, baby. What do you want?
I love that.
I mean, and I don't know why she was nice to me, but she was.
That's awesome. She probably remembered you.
And,
you know,
yeah, I mean, we ran into each other several different times, and I know that she was a tremendous personality and could also be tremendously difficult.
Oh, yes.
But I was lucky enough to get
when you make
a
that,
really positive side.
That's good.
Yeah, to
I
Ms.
was going to say,
Franklin.
when you make it to that level, you can pretty much do whatever you want.
Yes.
You're like, no, I've got 15 million security people running. You can't get within anything. I've only been, I'm 1 degree away from Aretha. I've never met her. I would love to meet her. And I hear that she's getting quite old these days.
Well, she just passed away last year.
Oh, did she really? I did not know.
Yeah,
well,
she did.
Maybe I did know that. Darn it. Really? Mm-hmm. Dang, there's so many that are just going.
They
that
had
it's
100
so hard.
pink Cadillacs.
That's right.
That drove through the city of Detroit.
I was going to tell you, I've worked with Vicki Randall. In fact, I worked with Vicki Randall in Michigan. I was going to tell you all about this because I've had some of my best gigs in Michigan all throughout. Kalamazoo, downtown on the square, was one of my all-time favorites. I played this big blues thing there. With Freak Bass, who studied under Bootsy and Kelly Ritchie. And then, of course, I was the female drummer, the female house drummer for Michigan Women's Music Festival for many years.
Oh, yeah.
That's up in Hart.
Right.
So I got hired by Julie Wolfe of like the Indigo Girls and Ani DeFranco through that and got to play in a band with Vicki Randall. Now, Vicki Randall was her backup singer for a long time, and she's on that whole Who's Zoomin' Who record and Pink Cadillac. That's Vicki Randall on like background harmonies.
Okay.
And I'm like, if you can sing background harmonies for Aretha Franklin, you pretty much can do anything. But her history, I did not know who Vicki was when I met her. And then I went in my tent and I Googled who she was because I knew I could tell she must be a bigwig. And she was my percussion player and I was her drum set player. And I'm looking and I'm like, oh, she's on tour with Mavis Staples right now. You know, she worked with Whitney. She toured with Aretha. She toured with Quincy Jones. Lionel Richie's dancing on the ceiling. That's her in the video, you know, all kinds of stuff. I was like, holy crap when I came out. But she talked a lot about working with Aretha and how amazing it was. I can't believe I didn't know she had passed away.
Yeah.
Where have I been? Under a rock. You know what it is? I haven't owned a television in like 6 years. I'm sure I probably saw it coming across the internet, but if it's not internet or if I'm not, I listen to music.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I think it's because I worked in TV for so long that I just finally one day was like, I don't want cable anymore. The only reason I was watching it was for Bravo and the Housewives. And then I was like, I'm way too addicted to this stuff. I know everything about these Housewives' lives. I know, and I'm sitting here drooling over them like, what am I doing? And so I'm like smacking myself around going, I have to quit watching television.
Yeah. Buy more records.
Yeah, that's what I did. Yeah, I hooked up a recording studio and said bye to the television anyway. But yeah, Vicki Randall, man, super awesome lady. She's still around. She's still doing all kinds of crazy stuff. She has an all-female punk band out in San Francisco called Skip the Needle, which you'll love.
Nice.
Yeah, and they just put out a record and they're very like anti-establishment, you know, F Trump and all that stuff, you know. But yeah, you would love their stuff. I keep trying to get them on the show. Actually, or at least a call in, you know, yeah. So anyway, that's amazing that you met Aretha Franklin. Have you ever met anybody else that you were just like wowed by?
Yeah, I've met a lot of people. I will say that I don't get too wowed, I guess.
Yeah,
because
same here. I feel
you know, my granddad always said to me, you know, folks they put their pants on the same way.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
no big deal.
I always say we're all skeletons underneath. Man.
You know, Brian Ferry was one that was really, you know, the singer for Roxy Music.
Yeah.
You know, I grew up with lots of Detroit musicians in my house.
Yeah,
so
you were
in
telling me Bob
my
Seger.
nana's house, yeah, he loved my nana's fried chicken. Bob Seger was a regular. Alice Cooper.
Super cool.
You know, the Five, the Stooges.
Yeah.
You know, I remember I met a lot of them when I was a kid. You know, so yeah, and then you know, working in radio, you meet folks.
Right.
There were some. I mean, I was pretty blown away by Brian Ferry. John Cale, I think, was probably one of the best hours of my life, was getting to interview and spend an hour with John Cale.
Yeah.
That was really special. Yeah.
That's so cool. I feel you. I've kind of been in the same, but since I grew up closer to Nashville, it was mostly country artists. It was like, you know, by the time I was 15, I was opening for Tim McGraw, and I got to go on his bus.
Did you ever get to meet Dolly?
No, actually, I've stood for Me to You twice.
Yeah.
From her. I'll tell you this story. I know because I always say I got my radio career because of her, because I was calling it. That's how the lady remembered me, you know.
Yes.
But I actually worked in radio with Porter Wagner's daughter, who discovered Dolly, and Porter Wagner's grandkids were in the same marching band as me. So I've always kind of been like this weird couple degrees from Dolly. I got to meet her twice. I never got to speak with her, though. But I was dressed as Gomez Addams from the Addams Family because it was a Halloween night, and I was going to a Halloween party after I went to see Dolly. And I ended up leaving early, and I come around the side, and we were trying to beat the traffic so we could get to the party, you know. And I come around the side and security stops me and they're like, ma'am, and here's me and my partner dressed like Morticia Gomez Addams. And they said, hang on just a second. So they stop us right here. And then out walks Dolly with all her security people. And she looks right at me, but she does this like double take because, you know, like, what's that? Yeah. And she waves real big. And of course, me, I turn around to look like who's she waving at. And there was nobody behind us. I was like, holy crap, she's waving at us. But of course, I had a wig and a drawn on mustache and all that stuff. The second time I just happened to be in Dollywood. It was a Friday the 13th. We went to Dollywood randomly, and she happened to be there. And when she's there, she does this like little ride through on a chariot, you know. And I was like super close to her and like, you know, got to see her. But I've never actually got to sit down and talk to her. Now, last year though, I got hired to record a drum tracks for an Americana album that's not out just yet, but it's supposed to. And it was at Dark Horse Recording Studio down in Franklin, Tennessee. Well, I didn't Google where I was going. I thought I was going to somebody's basement, you know, to record tracks. I just knew that they were going to pay me to do it. So I'm like, you know, pay me, send me the address. I'll be there. I'll bring drums. We're good. And I pull up, and it's like 1,000 acres of land, and it's modeled after the Game of Thrones. And I'm like, where am I? And I pull up, and like 20 little boys run out, and they're like, hi, Miss Yates, we're here to move your drums. And I'm like, what? Nobody ever helps me move my drums, you know?
Right.
And so I'm like, okay, I'll take the help. And I walk in, and I start to see all these gold records. And the first one I saw was like Taylor Swift's first record, Faith Hill's big first record, Martina McBride's Wild Angels, Alison Krauss, you know, all these people on the wall. And I was like, have all these people recorded here, you know, like a country bumpkin? And they're like, yeah, this studio is very famous. We've sold over 100,000, you know, number one hits or something like that out of here, and number ones. And I was like, wow, that's cool. Well, I was spending the night downstairs underneath the venue. So I go down to go to my room after the day, and I turn the light on, and I'm walking down a whole row of nothing but Dolly Parton gold records.
Wow.
And I was like, whoa. And there was only 2 bedrooms, and this place was super creative, cool too. It was a writer's retreat place where people like rent it out for a month. And
What
then
studio were you at?
It's called Dark Horse Studios.
Oh, yes.
In
Okay.
Franklin, Tennessee.
Yeah.
So I go into my room, and it's all this beautiful bunk beds and real countrified, you know, with the quilts and all this cool stuff, rocking chair in the corner. And I look up on the wall, and there's a Dolly Parton handwritten lyrics and autographed by her. And then it's like, For Traveling Through was the song. And then it's all her chord charts from the studio. So I run back upstairs, and I was like, what's with all the Dolly Parton stuff in the basement? And they're like, oh, this is Dolly Parton's personal recording studio. Ken Wells, her producer, has the whole basement rented out right now. And I'm like, they're like, she spends the night in the room that you're spending the night in. I'm like, are you freaking kidding me?
Okay.
So I took pictures. This was just last year about this time, too. And I was just like, what is going on, right? I called my friend Bev. She was like on her deathbed, you know, of dying of cancer. And I'm like, dude, I'm in Dolly Parton's personal recording studio. I can't believe it, you know. And I don't know if she remembers any of that because she passed like a week later. But I feel like something's going to come of that record. It's not out yet, but it's some of my best drumming work.
That's awesome.
It's an Americana record, and Jack White is kind of on it, so we're pretty positive he's going to cut it on vinyl and release it off a Third Man. But yeah, and the artist is really good. The reason I wanted to work with her is because she yodeled amazingly, and I loved her songwriting. She's a great like storyteller songwriter. You know,
That's fantastic.
Yeah. So it's kind of
Yes,
old
I know
school
that.
country.
I know that Dark Horse logo well.
Yes, and just like last week, I saw Dolly post a picture of her standing in the studio that I recorded that at. So I'm like, I feel like something magical is going on there.
Sweet.
Yeah.
Yes,
So
it's
stay
all
tuned.
kismet. Yes.
That record's going to be called Rivertown by an artist named Lori Jo Bridges out of Nashville.
Cool.
Yeah, so we'll see what happens. So I kept going, something's weird with the Dolly here. Something's weird. I'm spinning the
You're getting
night in the
closer.
room. I'm sniffing her pillows. You know what
You're
I mean?
getting closer.
I know. I'm eating in her kitchen. Yeah, I'm waiting. We'll see what happens. So tell me a little bit about this record that you brought me in today, because we're going to take a break and spin some of this stuff.
Oh, cool. Yeah. I brought in like, you know, a whole bunch bunch of women LPs today, women artists, femme artists. I'm part of the Spinsters Union, and we're kind of, celebrating. We're having our first femme fair on Sunday. So I was like, yeah, cool. I get to go hang out with Jen. I'm going to spin a whole bunch of, femme stuff. So
Cool.
I brought in lots of like 60s, 70s, international rock and roll.
Hell yeah.
This is a Brazilian artist. Her name is Gal Costa. She is tremendous. This record, she produced 2 records in 1969. The first one is a throwback to kind of bossa, and then this one is rooted directly in like fuzz and psychedelia. So this is the Gal Costa record, the second LP from 1969 that she released, called Culture and Civilization.
It's the Stooges with 1969. You're locked on to LRS102.com. I'm Jen Yates, joined by Kim Sorise. What up, Kim Sorise?
What up?
Yeah, we've
What
been
up,
to
doe,
do
as we say at
jamming.
home.
I love that first vinyl that you gave us there.
From Gal Costa?
Yeah.
Yeah, she's fantastic.
She is.
Yeah, she's still performing. So she's been playing, since the mid 1960s.
Yeah.
She still plays, semi-regularly. She's recorded with everybody that is anybody of progressive Brazilian musicians.
Yeah.
She's part of that Tropicalismo movement of the latter 60s, early 1970s that was, anti-political, kind of, I guess, how... very much how it was here in the latter 1960s. So.
Absolutely. Do you travel a lot?
Not as much as I would like.
Yeah, that's
But
what
I
everybody
have.
always says. They're always like, I
Yes.
want to just travel. That's why I literally pretty much sold everything I owned for the most part, minus a few things that I just could not part with. And was like, I've always loved to travel. I just wanted to travel. I didn't care what the space was. I just want to travel. That's it.
Yeah.
And that's what I've always
There's
wanted
definitely
to do.
some in the future, and there has been some in the past, but I will say I haven't gotten as much traveling outside of, just some record buying days of like, I'm hopping in the car and I'm going just to buy stuff.
Yeah. And that's the fun part of social media is that we now can keep up with all of our friends who do travel. I've got one of my bass player from LA, Vivi Rama. I love her dearly. She's on tour with Kesha right now. And I'm always like, God, she's all over the place. She'll be in like Russia one moment, and the next moment she's in Argentina, and then, here and there and all this cool stuff. It's just, I love to keep up with the travelers, and I love to travel. The reason I ask you is one of the places I definitely want to go is to Brazil for the Carnival, because I've always wanted to see that, and I love Brazilian music. I always have the bossa novas. We're talking about the sambas and the salsas and all that cool stuff that come from all those areas. It's just it's such an interesting percussion and rhythmic style that I just want to see the culture. You know what I mean, and just experience it. Yeah, so I think Brazil would be super cool place to go. Yeah,
It's always been on the list. No, but it's on the list.
Yeah, same.
For sure.
Same. Yeah, let's talk about the Spinsters Union.
Okay.
Yeah, the
Okay.
Spinsters Union of Louisville.
Yes, the
I
Spinsters
love
Union
this
of
idea. Okay. Where did the idea come from, and what's the purpose behind it,
Well, the Spinsters started in January of 2018, and actually the idea came from, I think, myself and the co-founder. Sarah Wood wanted to start something that was femme forward and working in building an awareness of women and also women DJs.
I love
She
that.
kind of comes out of a PR background and dabbles in some music and that sort of thing. And I was just kind of at a point of, being a DJ for 23 some odd years and saying, I can count on one hand the number of times that I get to spin with women.
Yeah.
I always either spin by myself or, have male counterparts that are buddies of mine. And so we met at a New Year's Eve gig that I was doing and sat down a week later to have a drink and kind of talk about it. And a week after that, there were 6 of us that sat in Nouvelle and over a couple bottles of wine and some treats and said, let's do this. So the Spinsters Union was born as a means to connect women and gender nonconforming DJs and bring them together and give them a voice and also create elements of safe space.
Right.
I think
Which is
it's
still
tremendously
needed.
important, and talk about equality in pay. because that is an issue, as well as treatment. So, and, I felt for myself personally that I'd been in this game for a long time. And I've been able to not make it my full-time job because that was never my interest.
Right.
But I've been able to, I think, be pretty consistent and reinvent myself and re-engage in different styles of music for, almost 25 years now, and be able to continue to do solid work.
Right.
And introduce people, to music that maybe they didn't know existed before. So it was kind of for me personally, it was my way of being able to give back to a new generation and community of femme DJs.
Yeah.
And that's what I wanted to do.
Well, thank you for doing that, because
Yeah.
that is awesome. What a freaking great idea.
Yeah, so the Spinsters Union was born, and we have had, weeklies in various places, and we've done, lots of really great parties with the Speed and the Louisville Ballet, and we do, lots of benefits. And then on this Sunday, we are throwing, it's kind of like our slight delayed anniversary party.
Yeah, I was going to ask you.
I mean, our anniversary is in January, which is not the best time to do anything.
Right.
So
yeah, nobody goes in January.
So we decided, we hooked up with Copper and Kings, and we're doing the Femme Fair, and it's Sunday from 11 to 6. We're starting out with a booty yoga session, and we have instructors. We have burlesque instructors. We have record dealers. We have food. We have self-care. We have about 30 vendors.
Wow. And that's this Sunday, 11 to 6.
This Sunday, 11 to 6.
Copper and Kings.
At Copper and Kings, yeah.
Sweet.
And then
I'm
we'll
going to
be
try
doing,
to swing by that.
Yeah, please do.
Yeah, I would love that.
DJ sessions throughout the course of the day. It'll be a lot of fun.
Well, first off, I was going to say kudos to you for the safe space thing, because I had Allison Cross, DJ Allie, on, and we talked a lot about...
She is also a spinster?
Yes, she is. yes, exactly. And by the way, I want to buy a T-shirt because I saw those cool T-shirts that y'all had on. I was like, ooh, I want that. That's cool. We talked a lot about the need for safe space. I myself have been out for 25 plus years, and I always still saying this. I mean, I just recently went somewhere where I was very uncomfortable. You know what I mean? I had some dude chasing me to a parking lot. Thank God I didn't have a taser on me. I would have tasered him. But, I go to certain areas. I stick in the Highlands because it's my safe space. I feel very comfortable there. I'm not, I come from a place where I was very tormented a lot for being who I was, So I feel like it's still needed, places, safe space for the LGBTQ community.
Absolutely.
As well as the non-gender conforming, all that. I'm very, that's all, has a very special place in my heart. So I love that you're doing that. Love the booty yoga idea. I was like, good Lord. And you've got yoga instructors that are burlesque teachers.
Well, no, we have a booty yoga, which is like a cardio style yoga. And these women are incredible.
I'm sure.
And it's a super empowering experience, but it is fast-paced in terms of a yoga experience. And then we also have, I think, a sexy heel dance class.
Oh, wow. And where is the burlesque coming? Because I was like, that sounds
5 o'clock. Upstairs, second floor. So it's a burlesque instruction.
Wow.
So, teach you to be a little
That's
sexier.
amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep.
I would love to see that.
And we have some live painting, live artists, tarot readings, food, records, DJs.
Wow, you
puppies.
just got it all. Yeah, puppies. I'm there.
Pitbulls of St. Francis.
Pitbulls of St. Francis will be there.
Yep.
Well,
so,
congratulations.
All
for
of these are, women-owned businesses or allies and nonprofits. And then the money that we raise will go to a femme-forward nonprofit in town.
Well, it's so similar to, it's not similar, but it is in some ways as in the female aspect, because when I did She Castle, when I met my soulmate, Beverly McClellan, she was my musical soulmate, we were on stage in Michigan at Michigan Women's Music Festival, and I had never really seen anything like that until I got to play something like that. Mm-hmm. And what I mean by that is it was all women on stage, all women allowed in, there were no men on the property, and you could do anything you wanted. It was the whole purpose was so that women were comfortable anywhere that they went. You know what I mean? If you wanted to go ride swings in the forest, you could. You could do literally anything you wanted. And so, I mean, within reason, as long as it was like a positive. It's a very positive aspect. Once I saw that, I was like, this is why women should run the world. I really did, because one thing that stuck with me all weekend, and I did this several years in a row, but the first time I went really blew my mind. And I have to preface it by saying this. I saw an intense psychotherapist here in Louisville. Her name is Mary Zerini. I love her. She changed my life and made me want to live, right? Because I'd come from this crazy background. And so she said to me, she said, you know what you need to do to heal? And I said, what? And this was probably 10, 12 years ago. She said, you need to go to Michigan. And she goes, you need to go to this place called Michigan Women's Music Festival. And you need to meet this African drummer named Ubaka Hill. And she will heal you. That's what she said to me.
No kidding.
No kidding. And then 5 years later, I'm not even seeing her anymore, right? I find myself at Michigan Women's Music Festival, and they come to pick me up because I'm one of the artists, right? And so, well, the artist being I was the house drummer, the house set player. And so I'm in a thing, and they're riding me over to this special area for the musicians. You have to sign in, do all this stuff. And the first person to walk up to me was this African lady, and she goes, hi, my name is Ubaka Hill, and she reached out her hand, and I was like, I still get cold chills telling you the story. And I was like, wow, this is really surreal, because my therapist told me I was supposed to be here to heal. And 5 years later, here I am, and I'm supposed to meet you, and you're the first person I meet. And she goes, who's your therapist? And of course, they were some of the first people to ever invent that festival. They were telling me stories back in the 60s when they started it. Their friends had bought private property, and they were going to have an all-female based thing. Well, Michigan didn't like it at the time in the area, because it was in kind of a country area. It's in Hart, Michigan. So
Like, oh, yeah, I know where it is. It's
wildlife refugee.
It's outside of the city.
Yeah,
There's a lot of similarities to Michigan and Kentucky.
Yeah, I'm sure there are. Yeah, so anyway.
They're just colder.
She said that, men would come and shoot guns at them, and they would try to run them over in the 60s because they did not want anything like that going on, in there, even though it was private property and they couldn't do that. So, I mean, my therapist was like a very feminist. She actually helped start the fairness campaign here in Louisville, Kentucky. She was one of the first, to start it. So she just changed my life. But it was a very surreal experience.
Yeah.
And when I experienced that, one thing that stuck by me is there was a $20 bill that had been dropped on the property. And not only did they feed you every day, you didn't have to pay for food. They fed you. They had health care people 24/7. They had housing for children. Like, everybody that goes there volunteers their time. And so they volunteer so many hours a day, and you pick what you're good at. If you're good at the music stuff, you'd be part of the music crew. If you're good at cooking, you'd be part of the cooking crew. And the women cooked for you. They give you massages. And so the porta potty smelled like roses every single day. I mean, it was just an amazing experience. Women smell good.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? So somebody had dropped a $20 bill, and somebody had wrote a little note and put it under a rock. And it said, whoever dropped this $20 bill, this is yours. And it stayed there all week. And I was like, wow, this is the kind of place I am. And this is what I want some place like this where I am. So when we decided to do the She Castle thing, I said I wanted all women on stage. I want all women to play the because a lot of these benefits that go on here, and I love a good benefit. I'm not dissing anybody, but they have these women, benefits to raise money for women, but then they'll hire all male musicians behind. And I'm like, dude, do you know how many awesome female musicians we have in this town?
Yes.
It's insanity. I've worked with a lot of them, and they're so good. I've been pit orchestras that were nothing but female. The Color Purple, we had literally 3 guys out of, a 30-piece orchestra or something.
Yeah, I think that, and that was, no diss to my DJ brothers. I love them.
Right.
And I'll spin a gig with them, today. But I also think that there's strength in numbers, and there's a sense of being able to be completely comfortable in my own skin.
Yes.
Right? I don't necessarily have to put a wall up or a guard up. I am a DJ that's not super talkative. I keep my headphones
Which is
on
ironic
because
you're here.
Well,
Right.
But I mean, one-on-one I'm great, but in a
setting of a lot.
I am not.
Yeah.
My headphones are on for a reason. It allows me to kind of stay in my space. I like having a table between me and the rest of the world.
Yeah, no, I feel you. You know what? It's the same thing with drums. When I'm on stage, and people don't get this when they come to see you, they all want to come up and they want a piece of your attention. Well, you're working.
100%.
And it's like, no, when I'm we are the entertainment for you all to have
I'm
fun.
creating atmosphere for you.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So when you're done and you're on break and you got 10 minutes and you just need to pee and get something to drink, you know, and or go smoke or whatever you do.
Yeah.
It's like, you know, if you come over and try to talk to me for 5 minutes, well, I'm going to be so scattered. I just want to go outside and have peace, you know. And so I've always loved being on stage because I have my drum set in front of me and nobody can talk to me. You know what I mean? I'm just me up there in my mind and I don't have to talk to anybody.
Yeah.
You know, and so I totally get you in that aspect. It's incredibly hard. So if you're listening and you come to see us, if you come see Kim spin, you come see me play tonight, which you
We're
can
working.
at Chex Cafe. I'm at Chex Cafe
Are
tonight
you?
out in Middletown.
Oh,
Are you
nice.
anywhere tonight?
Tonight I'll be on Matt Anthony's Sound Clash.
Cool. We
Yeah.
love Matt Anthony. I'm trying to get him in here too. So when you see him, tell him
I will.
come on Jen Yates' show
Absolutely.
on LRS. Yeah. So, but yes, if you're listening, don't come up. Just give us a moment until, you know, and usually it's at the end for me when I'm trying to unload my
And
stuff.
don't ask if you can look at the records.
Right.
Because no. It's like somebody saying, hey, Jen, can I sit and play your drums?
Yeah, they do that a lot.
You know, folks are like, and they will take their own liberties and come and flip through. And I'm like,
Yeah.
this is your retirement foundation right here.
Yes.
Like, don't fuck with these.
Yeah, same with my drum
Like,
set.
Do you know how long it has taken me to amass and how much money and hours, you know, like searching power?
Yeah. My thing
to be
is when
able
I'm
to do
always
this?
trying to load up my equipment, by the end of the night, after I get, all I care about is getting paid and getting my equipment in my car so I can get the hell out of there. You
Right.
know what I mean? I don't
Yeah.
want to stick around and talk to somebody for 30 minutes.
But I think as musicians and DJs, you know, we're the first in.
Yeah.
We're in before anybody else for sound checks and that sort of thing. And we're often like the last people out of there, you know, except for the bartenders. And we're walking out with them sometimes too, just because of safety in numbers.
Right.
You know, to be able to do those sort of things. And we are reading rooms and paying attention to everybody. I think to be a good DJ, you have to be truly observant.
Absolutely.
If you're
and
not
read
paying
your,
attention,
read your crowd.
you have to read the
Same
crowd.
with music in the cover band sense. If you're in a cover band that's playing a bunch of covers and you go into Stevie Ray's and you've got 200 people there, you have to read your crowd. How old are they? What kind of music are they going to like? And then you have to kind of pick from there. If you, and I would assume that maybe DJs are the same, but basically when you're in a cover band setting, how you're making the most money is by getting the most people there, keeping them on the dance floor because they're going to sweat more, which means they're going to drink more, which means you're making profit for the business and the bar. That's the whole name of the game. And I
Right.
always say if you can get the women there, you can get anybody else there because everybody follows the women.
Sure.
If you get women there, the straight men will come, the gay men will come, you know, the other women will come. You just it's the name of the game.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
I think in the cover band scene, that's exactly right. You know,
Yeah.
you have to read your crowd. I think to be in any great band, you need to read your crowd. Same with DJs, I would think.
Yeah, and you know, I don't do as many big dance floors as I used to. I think just because, like I've said, you know, I like to kind of branch out and do different things. I love a good cocktail party.
Yeah, me too.
I love to just kind of spin atmospherical pieces. You know, my radio show is like primarily all jazz.
Love that.
So, you know, but when I have to do, you know, a soul and funk set, which I love to do, you know, all on 45s, I'm truly happy to do that. You know, I love to spin disco and I like to spin, you know, weird world records and stuff of that nature. Not everything I spin is appropriate for a dance floor,
Right.
but I do think everything that I spin has a groove to it, and you know, it has that kind of sense of grease in the background.
Yeah.
So that matters.
Yeah.
But I do think, you know, having listening spaces, not everybody needs to get up and dance. That to me is okay.
Yeah.
You know, I think some people are not always good on their feet or feel comfortable, and it's a liberating feeling, but it's also something that, you know, you have to be vulnerable.
to
be
do
willing
that.
to
Yeah.
be vulnerable to get out there,
man.
and be the dancer.
Yeah, I was gonna say
somebody's always got to start that shit.
If I'm
right?
walking, I'm dancing. That's just who I am. I will be walking down the street here by myself, just bobbing in my head. My whole head's a musical. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I have always found joy in dancing, and I love to dance. It's one of my favorite things ever to do. I came out of the womb dancing. But what's ironic to me is most drummers don't dance.
Right.
Most drummers are terrified to dance.
Yeah,
and I
don't
totally
think
get
DJs
that.
love to dance either, but we do.
Yeah, I can see
we're
that.
constantly dancing.
I'm
so.
just a mover, a shaker, and it's always been pumping through my soul. You know what I mean? I can just feel it. Even if I can just not even listen to music too. I find myself doing this, and I would love to ask you about this too. Sometimes, I have to decipher music all the time. I have to teach music all the time. I'm constantly listening to music, and it's just always around me. It always has been. So a lot of times I will find myself driving for like 2 hours in dead silence just because to quieten it. Yeah.
I drive home from every gig in silence.
Yeah, I hear you. Yeah, sometimes
And
it's
I
just
don't
like
really
zen.
listen to music in my car. I'm a news radio junkie. So
I love that.
But no, after every single gig, after having headphones on for anywhere from 4 to 6 hours,
Right.
and it's banging whatever it is, that ride home is quiet.
Yeah, same with me playing drums for 3 hours. Tonight I'm playing a 4-hour gig.
Yep.
So it's like I'm going to be playing for 3 hours straight. I might get 20-minute breaks, 20-minute breaks.
Yep.
And then it takes an hour to set it up and then an hour to tear it down. Actually, I got the tear down to 20 minutes because I'm like free to get out of there.
Yep, I got a quick tear down too.
Yeah.
So,
And talking about safe spaces, tonight will be very interesting to me. And not, I love every venue, but, for an LGBTQ or every venue is not always the perfect fit for
Right.
me personally. So last time I played this particular venue, I had this lady chasing me out of literally in between sets, I was sitting in my car with the locked car going, oh gosh. And it's in an area of town that, it's different than the Highlands and just, so we'll see how tonight goes. But I much prefer, we just got a residency, my Kentucky Beatniks project at Chill Bar Highlands.
Oh, cool.
So we're going to be there starting next Friday,
Awesome.
every Friday from 7 till 9. Outside on the patio if it's nice enough, and then inside if it's not.
That's cool.
But yeah, and kudos to Chill Bar for getting live music there as well.
Yeah,
they
that's
also
awesome.
hire DJs almost every night of the
Simone's
week.
there all the time.
Yeah, AJ
Yep.
McKay. There's
Love
a bunch
her.
of different
Yep.
ones that are throughout there, but Chill Bar is my jam. I've been there since their inception. I love the owners, Roddy and David. And the silent partners that I've met, and just it's a safe space for me. So I'm always up there. At one point, they were like, "Do you want us to pull in a bed for you?" Because I'm just there all the time. But I
get
just love to
comfortable.
sit out on that patio
Yeah.
and chill out, and I like the back deck, and they're just cool.
It's a cool space.
It is a cool space.
I will say though, I am very guilty that unless I am scheduled to be
Play,
somewhere,
right.
I'm at home.
I hear you.
I am a homebody.
I can be
You
a
know,
homebody at times.
I
but
love to cook. I garden. That's my therapy.
Yeah.
And I listen to records. So.
Yeah, badass.
Yeah, I like being
man.
home.
Well, tell us about this record that we've got queued up here with the Detroit Cobras.
Yeah,
It's got
yeah.
a naked chick on the front cover, which in heels. Wait, in heels,
She
it's hot.
actually, I forget her name off the top of my head, to be quite honest, but she is a famous Detroit burlesque dancer.
Okay, well, she's completely nude and hot and shaking it down on this
she
cover.
is.
Yeah,
Yeah.
We love
And
it.
the Cobras were some of the first Detroit rockers, female rockers in the 1990s, when Detroit was getting its garage redux, if you will, with the Gories and things like that. I think that you guys need a backtracking turntable. I will say that.
I know. What is up with this turntable?
But Mary Cobra is one of the badass guitar players, and Rachel on vocals, and they're killer. And their first record, Mink Rat or Rabbit, is all great soul covers. So I think the one you queued up is the Marvelettes. I'll Keep Holding On, which is always a fabulous staple. They cover some Geno Washington. They cover a lot of great shit on this record.
All right, cool. We are locked on to LRS102.com, Jyneration Nation. I am with Kim Sorise. Here's the Detroit Cobras. It's some Betty Davis. You're locked on to LRS102.com, Generation Nation, and I am joined by Ken Sorise. Kim, how are you doing?
I'm doing great.
Awesome.
Thanks so much for having me on today. I've
you.
had a blast.
Thank you for coming in. You know, we were talking, since we're both radio cats, how rare it is to actually get a show where you can just spin whatever you want. You know what I mean? Or it's just an open format.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I've been really lucky in my music radio career to be able to be at stations that gave me freedom to play my own stuff.
Yeah. Right.
So yeah, when I was at DET and I was subbing, I always had to sub for. Well, I sub for all kinds of artists, but we had to, as subs, come in and do our versions of their shows.
Oh wow!
Which was a beautiful building block of learning different kinds of music, right?
I bet.
So if I had to go in and fill in for the jazz host, I would do that. We had a garage rock guy. That was the first show I ever did. 5 hours of 2.5-minute garage rock songs.
Oh wow!
No pee break, trust me. From midnight until 5 o'clock in the morning, midnight to 5. That was my shift. Electronic music,
electronic music is
all
my
sorts
jam.
of stuff. So, techno and house. And so I would have to learn all of these things. And if I didn't know it, then I basically had 2 or 3 days to cram as much information in my brain so I would actually get on the air and, sound like I knew what I was talking about.
Yeah.
And then when I came here, I had a show on FPK called the Independent Hit Parade, which was a nighttime show on Fridays. And it was like an all kind of indie show with some progressive pieces in there as well, because I do really like prog and kraut and all that sort of, 70s German, Italian, English stuff.
Yeah.
And then I did the Dirty Soul Party for 4 years for them too, from the Red Lounge, and that was all soul, and it was
remember
all on,
that. I used to
all
come
on
to
45.
those.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. So I was thankful to be on FPK and have freeform shows.
Right.
And then I took some time off of radio, and then I started back with a group that. Geez, I can't even remember their name. Anyway, I did like 5 years for them online, which I'm shocked that I can't remember right now. It will come to me.
Yeah.
And then I started with Art FM here, WXOX in town.
Yep. Shout out. We've had a lot of them on.
Absolutely. Fantastic
Carly
station.
Johnson, Jackson Swain, all those cats. Yeah.
And
Brett Holtzclaw.
Of course. And I was with them for almost 5 years and started out Global Grease there and Soul in the Hole. And then I was picked up by WFMU out of New Jersey, out of East Orange, New Jersey, which is the longest freeform station in the country.
Cool.
And I've been with them for 6 years.
Nice.
So, yeah.
And when can people listen?
They can hear Global Grease on Monday evenings from 7 until 9 p.m. on WFMU's Give the Drummer radio stream. Yeah.
Give the Drummer radio stream. I love the name. Yeah. Give the drummer some, y'all.
Yep, exactly.
That's what I always say. Give the drummer some. Put us back up front where we belong. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm always bitching because back in the day, drummers were the band leaders.
They were always in the center and they were always up front. And,
Exactly. A lot of people don't know that. But if you go back and Viola Smith, the book, this book here, Women Drummers, is all about her career. She played with Frank Sinatra. She will turn 107 this year, and she's still drumming. I write her a birthday card every year thanking her for what she's done for
bless her heart.
Women drummers. Yeah. And I have this awesome picture of her holding the book, and like I'm on the cover of the book, so she's holding me in her hands. Technically, I'm just very proud of that because she's like one of the super pioneers along with Sheila E. And there's so many drummers, female drummers that go back before her that people don't even know because we didn't have TV. They didn't associate it. They didn't know what gender you were.
Yeah, absolutely.
They're just listening, know. So, and the new Women Drummers documentary that just premiered in Nashville, it's premiering in LA here in a couple weeks. And you can get it on Vimeo. I'm featured in it with a lot of amazing drummers. They talk about that. They say, well, when you're listening to music and you like via a record or on the radio, you don't know what gender somebody is.
Yeah, absolutely.
What's it matter if they're playing drums and they're a girl? That's the whole point.
Yeah, it makes me think of like Carol Kay, the famous bass player.
Oh man,
who's played on like 50,000 tracks.
Yeah, she's part of the Wrecking Crew out in California.
100%. You know?
My friends have taken. You remember the bass player Vivi Roma from Kesha I was telling you about? She actually took lessons from Carol Kay.
Yeah,
she had hilarious stories about her because she's a major jazz player.
100%.
She said
Yes.
she was so above her head, and Vivi is smart as all get out. She knows her stuff. She studied classical music. She's from Buenos Aires, and she was just like, I came out just being like, what?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
She's tremendous.
Yes.
But yeah, I think I really, other than, like Sheila E., I can't think of
Female drummers.
a ton. I mean,
Yeah.
Mo Tucker, but,
Yep, Mo Tucker's in there.
I mean, I could
Meg
if I
White,
said
the
Meg
White
White.
Stripes.
Yeah.
You've also got Cindy Blackman Santana,
Yes.
who's Lenny Kravitz's drummer.
That's true,
Kim
yeah.
from Kid Rock's drummer
Okay.
is a female.
Okay.
We're really coming to the
Yeah.
forefront these days, and a lot of people are hiring female specifically. Which is really cool. I just got lucky.
So let me ask you this
Sure,
question,
yes.
because you've said that, and I know lots of people will associate the spinsters with that. But to me, like, just be a badass drummer, just be a
Right,
badass DJ,
exactly.
right? But we always get this precursor of the adjective of the female DJ, the female drummer, and I don't know.
I'm the
It
same.
kinda
I'm
just
like,
makes
I'm
me,
just a
like-
drummer, man.
Yeah, just let
if
me play some records.
Right. Now, I'm not saying I could go up against anybody because
Right.
there's some great freaking drummers out there, a lot of them from Detroit. You know what I mean? Bernard Purdy, who toured with Aretha Franklin, is like one
Certainly.
of my
Pretty
all-time
Purdy.
favorites. Yeah, and I was educated on the Funk Brothers very early on. All those cats and Motown is one of my favorite styles of music. But yeah, I did the same thing. It was very competitive where I was because I was in a marching band that was state
Me too.
championships.
Me too.
Yeah, so where I come from was a
3 years,
competitive
all of it.
background. Yeah, and I was always like, you put any dude in the room behind a drum set, and you put me behind the drum set, and I'm gonna slaughter him. Like that's the goal, right? And so when I moved here, I had that mentality. It took me to actually getting to Michigan and being around all those supportive females to go, wait a minute, it's not a competition anymore. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? I should help get my voice gives the people that are doing it younger than me a voice too. I should help them learn to shine. I should support my fellow sister and help them achieve things and build them up. And so that moment in Michigan really changed my mindset with the therapist. And since then I've been really trying to take on a more positive role, and trying to be supportive of everything. And it's not a competition. I've
Right.
made books with Sheila E. I don't have to work as hard these days. You
Yeah.
know what I'm saying? Like,
I think that was, some of the reasons why I really wanted to have the Spinsters Union too, is that, it's not a competition, but
Right.
there are things that I can pass along.
Yes. Your
and I've
knowledge.
always kind of been more comfortable surrounded by men. I don't know why, but I have. I think it's because, I was into records and I was into, skateboarding and I
Yeah.
was,
Hell yeah.
I played trumpet and I was in band and the stuff that I liked, I guess more guys kind of connected with, and I connected with that too. So it was, it has been really nice, but it's also been, I've had to learn to be vulnerable in this position of,
Right.
of
it's
of
uncomfortable
working
to be vulnerable sometimes, but
Sure.
I've found that when you are vulnerable, like the best things come out of that.
100%.
100%.
Yeah.
You have to be In fact, if you're comfortable, you're not learning.
Right.
You know what I mean? You have to be out of your comfort zone to learn. You do.
Yep.
And you have to make mistakes to know what not to do. You know what I mean? That's why you have to learn from living.
Yeah.
And being vulnerable is I don't like to be in that position either, but I have found when I am, if I just roll with it, then it's always magical.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I totally get you on that. You were saying something else running with the boys. Yeah, I always, from the moment I was little, thought I was a little boy on the inside. And in fact, everybody called me a boy. I'll never forget being on the school bus and the guy, my school bus driver, I was probably like 5, 6 maybe. And the school bus driver was like, "What's your name, son?" Even today, almost on a daily, I get sir. Especially with the voice, I get sir. But even people standing right in front of me will say sir. And I'm like, I have boobs. I love makeup. I've got beautiful hair. Like, what? I don't understand it. But also, my dad wanted a son. Yeah. And then when I was boyish girl, he
Right.
didn't like that.
Yeah. I was always in overalls. I was my granddad's shadow.
Same. I was
So,
riding motorcycles and I was in the trenches. My dad was a ditch digger and old well dude. I was always out on the field. I had all guy friends in my neighborhoods and we were always chasing chasing everybody. You know, we were always just doing all these crazy stuff. I was in the trenches with the He-Mans. I wanted He-Mans. I didn't give two shits about Barbie dolls.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so all that stuff, you know what I mean? So I was very boy-like growing up and very gender confused my whole life for the most part.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I look in the mirror and be like, what's this? This is interesting. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, yeah, I would run
Whatever
with the boys
I've always
too.
been, you know, it's the uniform. It's where
Yeah.
I'm comfortable.
Same. I like to be comfy. I like to dress up every now and then and look really cool. But other than that, I'm just more of a blue jeans t-shirt, throw
Yep.
the hair up, kind of country, you know, country girl. Yeah, outside. I love to be outdoors. Yeah. So, and I'm a busybody. Always have been. I've had a level of energy most of my life that lots of people cannot keep up with.
Yeah, I feel like, you know, to be solid in what we do, you have to be a hustler.
Yeah, you
know,
do.
I've
Yeah.
never just had one job.
Right.
I've always had like 3 or 4.
Right. We're working on 3 today.
You know, I have, you know, always that I have to have that creative outlet as part of it.
Yes, same.
You know, I work with kids all day, and so it's important to me that I have something that's like a clear difference and separation from my life of being with, you know, middle school and high school students.
Yeah.
You know, I love them and they have changed me for the better, I think, tenfold, but it's still really important that I still have that, you know, creative outreach consistently. And radio has always done that for me. And, you know, spinning out for people has always done that for me too.
Yeah, I could see it. A lot of people don't consider it a creative art style. And I'm like, that's crazy talk to me because DJs blow my mind. I
Yeah.
mean, you know what I mean? When I first learned about, you know, New York City and how they would be on the streets trying to like invent this style and all this stuff like that, you know, from the early pre-Grandmaster Flash stuff and all that. It's just, to me, I mean, it's a fine art just like anything else is, you know? And speaking of the creative outlet part, I feel like us creative types, you know, we go crazy if we're not being creative.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have to be creative. There's a very famous quote by Stuart Copeland that talks about drummers, and I think it can be applied to the creatives as well. But he's like, drummers do what they do because when they don't do it, they go crazy. Like
Yeah.
when we're sitting still, we're going crazy. So I've always been the same way. I love to draw. I love to write. I've always been a writer. I love to create songs. You know, I love to create art of any sort, any kind of visual art. I love to like construct things.
Yeah.
You know, like build things. I've always just been that kind of type. You know, and I love a garden. I meant to tell you, we both can agree on that. You're
Yeah.
Scorpio. I'm a Virgo. I am an Earth sign. I love to have my hands in the dirt. I
Yeah.
like to get dirty. I love to row a garden. I like to grow things and eat it. I've always been a green thumb. My whole
Yep.
family is. You know, I just love plants. And used to, you know, I love nurseries, all kinds of cool things,
Yeah.
and vineyards, you know. So I love anything outdoorsy and green and everything. We have so much in common.
We
It's
do.
cool. Yeah, I know. I love it. I told her she's like the rock and roll to my country because
Yeah.
you've met all these famous like rock and roll icons. I've mostly met country music icons. Yeah, and stuff like that. And just a couple years ago, I found myself opening for Doug Stone, which I thought was kind of funny. And I meant to tell you, so since my hometown run me off 20-something years ago, now everything's changed. When I go back, it's all my friends who love me dearly, who have had children, and they're way more open-minded. A couple years ago, I went down and I played my hometown for the first time in 20 years.
Wow.
And I was not having a clue what was going to happen.
Yeah.
And I joined my first band ever was called White Horse. And they came and found me. They knocked on our front door. They actually wanted my dad. They were trying to hire a drummer. They were opening for Tim McGraw. And this is before he was anybody. And my dad said, I'm not going to do it, but I want you to pick up my daughter. Well, I was like 13 at the time. These guys were in their 30s. So they took a chance on me, and my dad kind of coached me along, and that was the first band I was ever in, and we actually got to go on and do a lot of really cool stuff, and I played with them until I moved here at 21 years old, and I was very sad because I had to leave them behind, you know. Moving.
Yeah.
I couldn't make it to practices. I couldn't make it to all this cool stuff. So I reunited with them
Oh,
just
that's
a few
sweet.
years ago, and we played my hometown on the county little square and over like 14,000 people showed up.
No
and,
shit.
And I'm looking, and I put my dad on the cowbell part, and I was just like, "Holy crap, man!" It was a magical moment, and everybody was being super supportive. And their local radio station that I used to work at came out and broadcast it live, and it was
wow.
just super cool stuff. That was the gig with Doug Stone.
That was a celebration for you.
It
That's
was.
fantastic.
It was. And I'm just on the stage, like looking at my entire home square with nothing but people. Of course, now they were all in lawn chairs. You know, that's how the country folk do it. They're
Sure.
like, yeah, we're not standing up. We're bringing lawn chairs and our coolers right here and our umbrellas. But yeah, I mean, everybody showed up. My mom showed up. My dad showed up. All these people from my family showed up. And I was just like blown away. It was like I was the hometown hero.
That's
Their
great.
shero, as I call it.
Yes.
Yeah, I felt like once I got to go to LA when I came back, everything changed.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody looked at me different in my hometown, and I love that little song. What's that? Is it a Carrie Underwood song? Everybody's famous in a hometown, in a small town. Everybody's famous in a small town. It's a true story.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I just magical experience for me. You know, to be like, wow, they weren't accepting of the LGBT thing, but now they are.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Life changing, yeah.
I would think
now
so.
I'm way more comfy going back home these days, as you would say, because for many years I didn't want to go back, and I didn't go back. You know, just because I wanted to avoid the hypocrisy and the
Right.
the negative and the mindset. I moved to get away from the mindset
Sure.
of small towns. Yeah. And that's what I loved about Louisville when I got here. I was like, wow, there's all kinds of people like me.
It seems to be a pretty embracing place, you know, and I do think that for the LGBTQ community, Louisville is a very open place.
It
I
is.
think that, you know, they're still struggling in some respects of openness and inclusivity
Yeah.
here in the city. I think this is still a very divided, segregated city. But
It is.
for the
That red line is real.
LGBTQ, yes, for the LGBTQ community, I think that Louisville
We're in the top.
seems to be a wonderful place.
Yeah,
you
we're in the
know?
top 11.
I always said Louisville's best kept secret was its really stunningly gorgeous lesbian population.
Really? I love that. Hey, thanks. We thank you. You're welcome.
Yes.
No.
Thank you.
Yeah. No, like you said, that red line is real. It really is. We are still very segregated. There is a lot of hate in the city. Just a year ago, last night, I was punched in the head at the Yum Center and called many slurs, and it was because I was a lesbian. There was no other reason. I got a police report in the whole nine. But I'm like, where am I? I'm in Louisville, Kentucky, and it's 2018 at the time.
Right.
Why am I getting punched in the head for being gay?
Yeah.
That shit happened back in my hometown. Like, that's
Right.
bullshit. And it was a hate crime. I'll call it what it is. But at the same time, we are in the top 11 for population for LGBTQAI plus community.
Yep.
And when I went to LA, people would be like, "You're gay and you're from Kentucky?" They were so confused. And I said, "Yes, I'm gay and from Kentucky. There's an awesome place called Louisville that's badass. It's like the little dot of blue in a sea of crazy red." And even when I go home, what I have found is a lot of country people don't really care if you're gay. They just don't want it in their face all the time. You know what I mean? But a lot of them are totally okay with it under the scenes. But they also have a very backwards concept of what's going on with the world, which always confuses me. You know what I mean? So I try to stay away from any topic that might be divisive.
Sure.
Or if it is divisive, just try to brush it off and change the subject really quick to music, because you can always relate with music.
It is a great healer.
It is. It's the universal. It's the healing force of the universe,
It
as
is
I like
indeed.
to say.
It is.
Yeah. So, Louisville can be so awesome. One thing I love is the gay men population here. We have some of the best drag queens in the country. I have traveled all over the world, and I've gone to drag shows all over the world. LA, New York, Miami, Chicago, the Midwest, you know what I mean? All these awesome places. New Orleans had some pretty cool ones, but I will put our drag queens up against anybody.
Yeah.
I really will. They're just amazing here. And I had Simone on, and she was talking about, like, we up our game. And she also credited DJs with that. She said, our DJ game is dope here. And so is our drag queen scene.
Yeah.
I mean, they don't play around.
I
They
remember going to
take their
Connection
craft
when I first
very
moved
seriously.
and seeing the shows, and they were wonderful. I have not been to Play, I will admit. I haven't. I just don't get out.
Yeah. Play is gorgeous. You would love it. If you
Yeah,
love
I
the
hear they have a
Connection, you would
badass
love it.
sound system.
They do. I've actually played their stage. Yeah.
I would go when I first moved here. I was part of the euchre club, and I played
Like the card
at-
game euchre?
Yes,
My
and
granny used to play that.
played. Yeah, people here don't know it, but
I
it's
know
a
euchre.
Midwest.
We play Rook where I'm
Yeah.
from. We love Rook.
But there was a euchre, a gay men's euchre club that was at Connection.
Yeah.
And it would play in the front space where the piano was in the
Yeah.
little front bar. And we would play like every Wednesday. Brett Holzclaw was the one that took me.
I
Because
love
he's one of
him.
my best friends in the whole world.
I didn't
and
know that. You know, he's one of my favorite drummers in the whole world. Gay
he
man
is
drummer here in the city.
Amazing.
Yeah,
I always
we've
say
done
he's
dual
like the
gigs
most
together.
underrated drummer in town.
I agree with you.
Mm-hmm.
We've done dual gigs together where he has a Vistalite 70s vintage Ludwig kit.
Yep.
And it's the see-through white.
Yep.
And I have the vintage kit in blue.
Oh, nice.
And I also have the Tequila Sunrise Snare, which is the rainbow with the lights on the inside that they came out in the 70s. They're worth a lot of money, and people like look for them because
Yeah.
they're very rare. But anyway, we set up that whole kit underneath Vernon Lanes
Mm-hmm.
on Story Avenue one time and just had the best like CD release party ever.
Yeah.
I've loved Brett for a long time, and
Yeah,
I love
I love
anytime I
him.
get to spend time with him.
Yep.
Yeah, he was awesome when he came on the show. He brought so much stuff. I mean, yes, I agree with you. One of the most underrated drummers in the city.
Yeah, he's
I would put
badass.
him in the top three.
But
for
he's
sure.
also a really darn good euchre player, and we would go and play at the euchre club, and I was the only woman at first.
Yeah.
For many years,
I
and then
love that.
I followed that like down the street to there was a space. It was on the other side of the overpass. I can't even remember. It was there at Starbase Q. It was
Oh,
there
yeah, I
for just
love
a bit.
Starbase Q.
Moved down there. Moved to Triangles.
Yep.
I think they're still playing. I don't know. I haven't been in a while.
They probably are. I mean, there's a whole, even at Starbase Q, I got to play there too. As a, they're always, the gay community here hires me for things, and that's one thing that I love. Like, even if you don't try to play every night, or say you don't try to spin every night, you get in with the gay community and all the different venues, and they're going to hire you for lots of things
Yeah.
because they want to see you play, you know, and see you succeed. Starbase Q was kind of one of those spaces for me.
Yeah.
I'd go down there for their line. I'd be like, "What is this? There's a LGBTQ line dance club.
Yeah.
Who knew? Now there's a kickball league and a softball league I played on, and
I just read that like Louisville's
euchre.
only last lesbian bar, which is around the corner from my house, Persuasion's just closed.
It did actually.
remember when they
Matt and Tina, the owners, I've known them for 20 something
Yeah.
years. Actually, when
And there was a
Tinks-
bar there before that too. Tinks,
yeah.
right?
So Tinks used to be downtown on Market, and my friends owned it. Tina Bell and Stacy, actually, I think it's Stacy Grimsley. I can't pronounce her last name, but I can't think of it right now. But either way, they were partners. They ended up moving it, and before I got here, it was actually on 7th Street. I only
Okay.
know that because I got hired to play the anniversary party of Tinks when it opened, and it was Tinks and then Tinkers too and all this stuff. They had it downtown. That's when I came into the scene, and then they moved it over to Preston, which is now the old locations of Persuasions.
Right.
When it basically went under, I used to play there every Wednesday night. I used to open for Tiffany there, man. I've done some really cool stuff at that venue. Yeah, and so actually after that went out, then Matt and Tina decided to keep that bar open, but they wanted to change it to something else, so they named it Persuasions, and then it's been around for a while. I was actually quite shocked to see, well, I was shocked and not shocked, I should
Right.
say, because I don't go down there. It's a little seedy for me. It used to be a motorcycle versus U of L bar, and it's always kind of been dark and creepy
Yeah.
in its own right. But I also had a lot of amazing gigs there, and got my start in Louisville music there, kind of thing too. So,
Yeah.
I hate hearing that. I think lesbian bars are a dying business. I say this often. If you go to any major city, which I've done a lot of, if you go to Miami, you don't see very many lesbian bars. New Orleans doesn't even have one. New York City only has 2. You know what I mean? There's not that many out in LA. They're just not a space because lesbians, when they get together, they usually nest. They go home. They don't
Right.
go out. They go home and they nest for long periods of time, and they don't don't go out. It's not like gay men. Gay men go out whether they're together or not. And if gay men are a couple, they're still going out to the bar like twice, 2 or 3 times a week. They just like to be out. They like to, a lot of the scene's very promiscuous, not calling y'all out, but I mean, it kind of is, and they're just more out. So therefore gay men bars like survive much, they thrive a lot more than the lesbian bar would.
Sure.
I think a lesbian bar could be something cool here, but I also think it has to be up near all the other gay bars in the Highlands. I've always said it needs to be in the Highlands, and it needs to be in the active area where you can walk. Nobody's going to walk 2 miles down Bardstown Road to go to a lesbian bar, especially and if they're paying a cover, they won't do it. You know what I mean? But it also has to be run by someone who can bring the community together, because our
100%.
Our lesbian community here, and not all, because I love a lot of them, but a lot of them are very divisive. And I've been thrown out of venues before I was even allowed in. I didn't even do anything. You know what I mean? They're just a divisive community. So I feel like if somebody, and I felt like we had that with Jen and Marge when they ran the original Planet, they really were bringing the community together, and that space thrived. It was a little farther down Bardstown Road, but had they have taken that space and moved it like right across from Chill, and bought that weird housey thing that's right beside DKD, I think it would have thrived there. If they threw it up near Tap Room, I think it'll thrive, but only on those two variables. I only think that it has to be run by somebody who everybody loves and can bring people together no matter what. And it has to be in a good location, because if it's not, then it's never going to work. And unfortunately for Persuasions, it's just nobody's going to go down there.
It was
the
dark.
Z-Bar crowd is not coming there.
No.
It's seedy. The parking lot's seedy. I mean, I can't tell you
No
how many
lights.
times I've been almost attacked in that parking lot. You know what I mean? And I don't want to go to a lesbian bar and try to get punched.
Right.
Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, lesbians can be aggressive. I'm like, back up. You know what I mean? They can be. I'm not trying to stereotype.
They want to
it,
go home and nest.
Yeah, they want to go home and nest. They want to hook up and go home and nest. Yes, but, that's just kind of how the name of the game. And that's from just my own personal perspective from being out. Because I feel like I am the oddball. I'm the dark horse in the whole gay scene, the lesbian scene especially, because I feel like I'm the one who, I was birthed in a bar, playing music in a bar, and not saying I'll always go to bars, but I love bars. I always have been. I love to go dance. I love to be out. I've always been social. I do go through my moments where I'm like, oh God, I don't want to go out at all. And I become a little more reclusive and a little more introverted. And that's when I get creative. That's when I start to get real creative.
Right.
And I find myself, I have to kind of seclude myself if I want to be creative. Because you can't be going out all the time and then come home and be creative. You're too sporadic. You need to like lock yourself in a room for a month, and then you're going to create something brilliant. But yeah, I feel like I have a different perspective because I do go out and I play venues and I love to be out at the gay men bars. I just kind of network that way. But yeah, I do think I would love to see Louisville start a lesbian bar here. That was great. That thrived. I just don't think it's going to happen.
Yeah, I think that it's, I don't know. I think you're absolutely right, though, in terms of the community being a little bit more, home-centered. And,
and once
gay
they
men
have
are
kids,
fun,
it's
and they
over.
love to go out and have a good time.
Yes, they
so
do.
By all means, do it.
And I love my gay men. You know this. So we're gonna finish it up. Kim, Sorise, it's been so cool to have you up
too.
in the studios.
Thank you.
Remind everybody real quick where they can catch you this weekend. The Femme Fair, all that good
Femme
stuff.
Fair is at Copper and Kings on Sunday from 12 to 6. Booty Yoga starts at 11. I think we got to switch some records out, right?
Yeah, I forgot.
Yeah, and let's see. You can also I'm around town. You can hear Global Grease on Monday evenings from 7 until 9 p.m. on the Give the Drummer radio stream from WFMU. So WFMU.org/drummer is the easy way to go.
Yay,
Yeah.
and I love you for that. I'm so glad you came in. I got to know
Yeah.
you so much more, and I just love you. You're
Thanks.
awesome. Yeah. And I'm going to try to stop by on Sunday. It's 12
Awesome.
to 6, you
Yep.
said? Yeah, and what a great concept. I love that idea, and I love anybody who tries to empower empower women and has women-owned businesses, and I love events like that. So it's right down my alley. And good luck to you with
Thank you.
with your spin stuff, and you just educated me on all kinds of cool vinyl and everything else. So if you can, and by the way, can you join the Spinsters Union, or how's that work? Is it a picky thing, or is
Sure.
it just
No,
a
we're
club
not.
of-
We're not super picky. Right now, we're just kind of focusing on doing the best we can for each
Absolutely.
other, and I think we got real big real quick, but we have 15 members. We're active. Our members pay dues, and we have monthly meetings, and some of them also do some educational things. You were mentioning Moms, where you were playing there.
Yeah.
Several of our DJs actually teach DJing
I love
at
that.
Moms, which is
Oh, I love
awesome.
that.
Yeah, and we're artists, and we're teachers, and we're music therapists,
Absolutely.
and so it's a whole collection of femme forward individuals. So
Go Fins.
Yeah.
I love an aggressive fin. That's what I always say. All right. Well, we're going to finish it off. Tell us what you brought us here, because this is amazing.
This woman's name is Ruth Copeland. She's kind of probably, I guess, maybe vocally akin to Janis Joplin. And her backing band on this particular record is Funkadelic. So it's a pretty heavy duty. And I think we're listening to a cover of the Stones, Play with Fire.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Awesome. I love it. Well, that was Kim Sorise on LRS102.com, The Walrus. Join me back Monday. I'll be back. Y'all have a very safe weekend. Please call an Uber if you drink. And, of course, be awesome like always and keep it groovy. I'll see you Monday.